Hey there! On today's video, we're going to talk about the Ohlins HD044 Reservoir Shock bracket. I'm going to show you guys, or I'm going to explain to you guys how I made my bracket for pennies basically, instead of $450. Let's get right to it. Hey there. So here we are. We're going to be talking about the Ohlins HD044 Reservoir Shock. First, a little history on this shock. Why did I buy this shock? As I was building this bike, I noticed that a lot of bikes had upgraded their suspension. And as I looked further into it, did more reading, watched some videos on it, I thought it a good idea. Anyhow, having ridden the bike before and knowing what the suspension was like, I thought I would splurge. Splurge is the word, okay? $1,500 for these shocks, just the rear shocks. Now this bike has front and rear. Those are $1,200. Those go inside the tubes, inside the forks. They're called cartridges. Okay, so I have the Ohlins cartridges in the front and the Reservoir shocks in the back. Did they make a difference? Yes, they did. Yes, they do. I am really, I'm not going to say impressed, because that's what I was expecting, and I paid a lot of money for this. So they didn't impress me, but I will say I'm happy with the purchase. I'm happy with how they perform. Okay, these are world-renowned, top-of-the-line shocks for motorcycles. If you think of Brembo brakes for motorcycles, they are top-of-the-line, correct? And if you think shocks, these are top-of-the-line. These shocks, they sell brackets to put them in that position. That the cheapest ones I found were somewhere in the low $400 range. The average ones are $450. There's a few companies out of California that do specialty motorcycle parts, and I searched the internet high and low, and I could not find them any less expensive than $450 after it was all said and done. And you know, I'm the kind of guy that I don't have a problem buying good stuff for my bike, and by that I mean expensive stuff, okay, like the shocks. But I cannot see myself paying $450 for some little brackets. Yes, they are CNC machined out of billet aluminum, and they are anodized, but that's about it. I mean, you know, and in the case when I use my tour pack, they would be mostly hidden. So you know, what I came up with cost about $1, a little bit over $1, something like that. You know, I think I paid $5 for a 3-foot bar of aluminum, flat bar, and I'm going to show you. So with that being said, like I said, I searched the internet high and low, and I could not find anything cheaper than about $450. So more on the shock itself. What is the big deal with the Reservoir? Like, why that Reservoir? Why are we seeing that more and more on motorcycles? Well, the Reservoir holds oil. So if you think that the shock itself holds, let's say, a pint of oil, with the Reservoir, now you have 2 pints of oil. So for anybody that has ever seen suspension in R&D, any type of video where they're testing suspension, be it your car or your motorcycle, suspension on a vehicle is constant constantly moving up and down. Every bump and crack on the road, it absorbs it. You know, today's suspension is something pretty cool. And this suspension here is top of the line. So what the Reservoir does is that oil inside doesn't start to fade, doesn't start to get hot to the point where the shock can no longer do its job, because the oil inside of the shock has become so hot. And you know how it is, the viscosity starts to diminish. And I believe there's foaming as well. There's foaming in the oil. That seems something that I watched on a YouTube video when they were doing the testing of these shocks. I have had people ask me if I had hydraulics on the motorcycle. In other words, does my motorcycle go up and down, and is that like a hydraulic cartridge? I've had other people who thought that was an air cartridge, again, for suspension. Neither one of those are true, but it is part of the suspension. So that's what a lot of people, when they see these cartridges out back, believe. There are other manufacturers of cartridges, of shocks with cartridges. The one that comes to mind the most is the Legends for Harley-Davidson. They also have cartridges, but theirs is not a gold like the Ohlins. As you all know, this, if you're into motorcycles, a lot of I want to say Ducati, a lot of high-end bikes come with the gold forks, and that's kind of like their trademark color right there. So yeah, Legend makes them. Theirs are black, and the thing is, they charge the same amount as does Ohlins. Now, as long as I've been into motorcycles, I've never heard of Legends, but I've heard of Ohlins. So there's no way I would pay $1,500 for I'll go ahead and say it, for a no-name shock. You know, and I really don't know what Legends is about, if they can compare to this shock. But I'm gonna go with a reputable brand, and that's what I've done here. Well, this video is about shocks with reservoirs and how to make the bracket that holds this reservoir in place. But I'm also going to explain a lot about this shock and why you are starting to see more and more motorcycles with shocks like this. Another thing I can tell you about the shocks is, after I have put them on, is I've been to New York and New Jersey. For those of you that follow me, you know that. And in doing so, big cities, northern big cities, because I've ridden in the South enough to know that, a lot of places in the South, most places in the South, don't have the road problems that we do in the North. Because of the cold, because of the snow. And you know how that works. For those of you who live in the South, you probably wonder why. Is because rain, snow hit the road, there's a little crack, water gets in there, it freezes up, it expands, and it cracks the road, it cracks the cement, and that's pretty much why the roads in the North are a lot worse than the ones in the South. So I have put this bike through the test in New York City, in New Jersey, and I can say that that's really where I learned its value. I was like, yeah, these shocks are performing, because I was not feeling going over manhole covers and a lot of things like that I felt with before I got the suspension. You know, one of the weird things that I can say is it's hard to determine suspension front and rear. The rear of your butt is kind of on that, but what I will say is my Softail Deluxe, the one I call the Vikla, with the long fishtail pipes, I put a progressive suspension on the front forks of that bike to lower it a little bit, and I immediately noticed the suspension difference of the forks. and I can tell that the back, it being factory shocks, in my opinion, are not as good. Factory shocks, especially on Harley baggers, are not as good. These are heavy bikes. These are 900-pound bikes. You need good suspension. Harley made shocks are not it. Going back to the Vikla, I felt that I did a ride to, we took a ride out to Kentucky through North Carolina, Tennessee, near Tail of the Dragon, all those. We took some really nice roads out there. We ended up in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And I can tell you that I felt the difference of the front suspension of that bike. So some people say, hey, I'm just going to do the back. If you don't do the front, you're cheating yourself. Did I tell you that on this channel, we talk about motorcycles of all brands, all kinds? We also do reviews of motorcycle parts, accessories, motorcycle gear. Not just for adventure bikes, but for all types of riding. Also, we do installation videos of different parts and accessories. And my favorite, we do a lot of touring videos. For example, we've been to Key West, we've been to Maine, we've been to New Orleans, we've been to New York City, we've been to Tail of the Dragon, we've been to the Gulf Coast. Pretty much on the East Coast, I'd say we have it covered. But what's coming up is what's really exciting. I will be coming out with a video telling you guys of a trip that we're planning to the West Coast this coming year. Not too long from now. So you all watch out for that. If you're not a subscriber, I say go ahead and do that now so that you won't miss all the riding that we're going to be doing out there. We're going to be out there for a week. So I've already started the planning of the different places we're going to be going to. I know that you all are going to enjoy that and possibly learn something new. So let's continue. This is a piece of aluminum flat bar, is all it is. And I bent it. I bent it there, and I think you can see further back where I mounted it to an existing frame bolt. I put a little angle in this piece of aluminum flat bar. I drilled 2 holes, and that is pretty much it. Let me show you a better angle. I think you can see there. It's pretty simple. And like I said, I want to say I paid, I don't know, $4 or $5 for a piece of flat bar, for a 3-foot piece of flat bar, aluminum, and that is pretty much it. And if you look at my bike from the rear, you can see the reservoirs, and it looks no different, in my opinion, than the guys who spent $450 for their mounts. Now, when you buy these shocks, Ohlins sends you this bracket here, okay, that goes on the reservoir itself. It has mounting holes, okay. So I lied, there's actually three. I made 3 holes because you can see that has 2 holes, right? There's 2 bolts there and 1 towards the back that mounts to the frame itself. These things are sturdy. They don't move. I mean, they're doing what they're meant to do. So, if you have a bike and you are looking to upgrade your suspension, and you've been considering doing Ohlins or Legends or anything like that, and it doesn't come with the mounts, I suggest that you make these. I'm telling you, it's cheap. If you have a friend who's considering doing the shocks, send him this video. share the knowledge, if you will. Share the way to save some money. You know, I tell you, I really don't have a problem, as you can tell, purchasing good quality stuff for my bike, even if it is expensive. But I feel wasteful. Really, $450? No, there's better things I can do with my money than that. So anyway, you know, this is the season of giving, so I thought I would give you some good information and a way to save some money. I know a lot of guys this time of year are tearing their bikes apart and doing some upgrades. So I'm one of those guys that usually does that kind of stuff. I will say this year I have maintenance things to do. I need to take the forks off of this bike and send them back to the manufacturer because the chrome is coming off. I can actually see the brass behind the chrome. And then I have the GS that I have to put a clutch hose for, because that leaks. For those of you that follow me, you know, on the BDR that messed up. So those are the maintenance things I have to do, along with trying to finish the kitchen of my house. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have found value, if you have learned anything from this video, I urge you to consider subscribing. You know, that's what I'm all about. I like teaching people what I've learned throughout the years. I like teaching people what I've learned with the 4 motorcycles that I have registered right now. Anything that I learn with these bikes, anything that I do with these bikes that I think I can share with you all is of value. You all take care. Watch out with the crazy people on the road. And I will catch you on the next one. Adios.